came in there, you can see we've had quite a strong switch to the downside. And it's always worthwhile checking things like advanced decline line. The advanced decline line is very, very, very actively followed by a lot of traders. It's very worthwhile paying a close attention to that supply-demand line, as an advanced decline line does give us some insight into days where there's a lot of buyers or sellers. Well, take a look at the NASDAQ today and tell me what you think about the NASDAQ today on the advanced decline line. You tell me. What do you think of the NASDAQ advanced decline line today? Quite an interesting outcome, isn't it? A very, very strong upside day today, very strong upside day today. So, you know, buying off that 25 print at the bottom edge on the S&P obviously was supported massively by that advanced decline line narrative. Now, you may be obviously interested to see what it looks like on the bigger picture, of course, but when you look at the overall shape of it, and you look at the market breadth was never that bearish over the last 2 days. It's never been bearish over the last 2 days. It's bearish. It's not that bearish, is it? The big bearish day was the gap down from this day, which then gapped down, but then the advance actually started to pick up a bid since then. So you can see into these low prices, the advanced decline line on a daily basis was starting to catch a small, gradual bid off the low edges, which is in line, obviously, with the discussion we had about the delta change, where they're slowly going to be buying stocks at those discount prices. So when we look in the background, you can see where the sell came in from. Very much like the buy at the bottom edge, the sell was very obvious during these massive diverging periods here from the advanced decline community. And you can start to see that some of these big narrative stories simply are not invisible from your view if you spend some time analyzing these elements to try and get a few of these stories to line up. In an even bigger picture, you can see where we've had some big reversal narratives. You can see there was a big sell coming through that phase, allowing you to work the short sell off of those top ledges. There was a big buy reversal into that day, which resulted in this massive gap up the next day. So you can see that there is some really strong stories to take from these. Even when we see gaps in these numbers, you can see, for example, that this gap actually started over here. When the advance started to pop on a buy side gap, you can see that buying the low price seemed to be on the cards through that phase there. And that resulted in what ultimately turned out to be a big upside move away from those advanced decliners. So when you look at market breadth, it's important that you do keep paying attention to it and you don't just dismiss it as irrelevant to your narrative. It's a very relevant piece of your storyline. Advanced decliners is very much like that bigger picture tick that we've been talking about before. How many stocks are advancing? How many stocks are declining? And what does it mean for the market breadth? Well, it is market breadth, isn't it? It is market breadth. It gives you a couple of really strong clues about what you can expect to see from those numbers. Now, obviously, it's not a trending indicator. You can only have X number of stocks. You can only have X number of stocks buying or selling. But it does still have that short-term change in the storyline. You know, when it opens very weak and it stays very weak, like it was in this day here, for example, it opened weak and it stayed weak. And that really did open the door for that continuation short sell, which was brutal during that period. So watching where it opens, watching how it evolves during the course of a day, especially in the early morning session, you start to recognize those types of stories. And as you drill down into this morning's business here, and you start seeing just how bullish it's been this morning for that trade there, it's not really surprising when we saw that buy coming off those low edges. It's not surprising at all. Interesting enough, obviously, number one, it was the low edge. Number two, it was obviously that enormous 25 print that we talked about on the S&P futures, and we've just traded the 60. The 60. Now that 60 is obviously the price that we'd already given you earlier on there. I shouted it, we're just coming into that next key price at 60. So keep your eye on that next key at 60. So we've just taken 25 longs up to 60s. Yeah? So we've just taken the 25 longs up to 60s. Unbelievable, right?